New York police say they're seeing more and more teens as suspects in violent crimes.
We've seen a trend this year in particularly teenage kids, particularly in Manhattan, a little bit in the Bronx. That's where the spike has been, particularly with groups of teens.
Let's bring in Aisha Sekou. She is the CEO of Street Corner Resources based in Harlem. Aisha, welcome to Chasing News. How are you?
Peace and blessings. I'm great and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, and I really do appreciate your time. Some disturbing trends out there. Let me ask you, what do you attribute this to? There's certainly been a spike in crime, particularly among teenagers. What do you think needs to be done?
We have not had the kind of governance over our young people that we need to. I always call it that we did not provide the oversight that we need to with them. One, programs and after-school programs have less funding and resources, so young people have fewer places to go in. Those are the places, community-based organizations and activities after school are the places where young people are disciplined, they learn proper behavior, they learn how to win, they learn how to lose, and they have the voices of elders to guide them. We're not seeing that now.
Aisha, what about parents and teachers, especially when kids are young, learning that structure on how to get along in the world?
It definitely is a part of the conversation. We're seeing parents who have to work 2 jobs, spend less time at home. Yeah. We're not seeing the kind of guidance in the schools that we saw years ago where there was a guidance counselor.
Thanks, Aisha. Nice to talk to you. Let's bring in tonight's A+ panel and break this down. We're joined by Lisa Durden, social commentator. Good to see you, Lisa.
Of course. How are you?
And Bob Bianchi, former prosecutor, now defense attorney. Good to see you, Bob.
Bill.
Bob, I'm going to start with you on this because I know you've had experience working with law enforcement. Part of me looks at this and says you don't have the enforcement of small crimes, those quality of life crimes any longer in New York City, whether it's smoking pot on the street, urination in public, turnstile jumping. I can't imagine that has not contributed to a spike in crime.
One of the most important things that we did, and this is 10 years ago, and I think we need to continue to do it, is build community affairs units within police departments for an intelligence basis reason. When the communities feel comfortable with the police and the police are on the street and they're not this big bad boogeyman, if you will, then there's more likelihood, and some of the biggest arrests we ever made came from information given to us by our community partners, and that's how it should be seen. As far as teen violence is concerned, I agree with you. I told you this when this news first broke. Teen violence is a real issue. And from a law enforcement point of view, when there's a real hot area, you got to go in and you got to enforce those lower crimes that you typically wouldn't. That's enforcement of curfews, arresting people for urinating in public, smoking weed, to flush that out. Although sometimes the community can, at a certain point in time, say, wait a minute, enough, because that does put a lot of pressure on that youth community.
To that point, Lisa, it seems the pendulum has swung in New York and it's getting worse, whereas in Newark, Ross Baraka, Anthony Ambrose, the public safety director, enforcing those quality of life crimes, they've had the lowest murder rate reported. We talked about this yesterday on the show, lowest rate in 60 years.
Well, 2 things. I agree with Aisha. In the New York City system, they used to have all kinds of programs. One in particular that worked very well for many, many years was the New York Police Athletic League, where young people could be within the police department playing basketball, running track, competing across the state. They used to have that. They funded that. They stopped that. And that's in the 80s and before. They don't have those kind of programs anymore. So we don't have a relationship with the police. So she's correct. It's not just as simple as arrest people. It's about the entire community.
All right. Thanks, guys.